We begin this morning with the chaos at airports across the country after Southwest Airlines canceled thousands of flights over the weekend.
And the situation so far not getting any better this morning. The airline has already canceled more than 300 flights. Southwest blamed bad weather and staffing shortages for the delays, leaving passengers stranded at airports and stuck waiting for updates. MSNBC anchor Kendis Gibson has the latest for us.
Savannah and Joe, good morning. Yeah, the country's fourth biggest airline is busy this morning trying to reposition crews and planes, hoping to avoid a third consecutive day of cancellations and delays. Southwest Airlines is scrambling to control a travel fiasco. From Dallas,
unbelievable. People are frustrated, aggravated.
To Denver, where long lines stretch through the airport.
The soonest they can put me in on a flight is Wednesday.
And then they said they can get us out on Tuesday. Today's Sunday. We have kids, we have a daughter in high school.
Passengers desperate to get rebooked onto new flights. Southwest canceled at least 1,800 flights this weekend. Sunday alone, 27% of its fleet grounded. Frustration taking flight. If the long lines weren't bad enough, passengers faced as much as an 8-hour wait to reach someone on the phone. These travelers in Las Vegas resorting to sleeping on the bare floor. In a statement, Southwest blamed air traffic control issues and bad weather in Florida from Friday. But the FAA said its traffic control issues were long resolved. Southwest then released another statement saying after cutting back flights during the pandemic, recovering during operational challenges is more difficult and prolonged.
No, it's not a good day to be a Southwest Airlines passenger.
Some experts blamed shortages.
What's going on is Southwest scheduled too many flights. They are struggling with pilot recruitment.
The airline saying tonight, we're working diligently to accommodate our customers as quickly as possible. This all comes just hours after the Airlines Pilots Association filed suit over its vaccine mandate for employees, which takes effect in 2 months. Pilots Union saying this isn't their fault. They're there and ready to fly. With an estimated 120,000 passengers impacted by the cancellations, it could be some time before Southwest is back up to speed. Savannah and Joe.
All right, Kendis, thank you.
Yes, thanks. And now for more on all this, let's bring in travel expert Mark Elwood. Mark, good morning. Thanks for being with us. So we just heard about this in Kendis's piece there, but the FAA released a statement saying they have not experienced any staffing shortages since Friday. So why is Southwest the only major airline to report such a large number of cancellations? And how is it possible that they weren't prepared for this at all?
Well, it's just a game of pass the buck, isn't it? No one wants to be responsible for all these flight cancellations. The simplest explanation, Henry was right. Flights have always operated on a really tight supply chain, and we've seen supply chains really stretch, shortages in supermarkets. What airlines are seeing is exactly the same thing. They cut back during the pandemic. Their turnarounds are very tight. One domino goes down, 8 flights get cancelled. And Southwest is really the current example of it. I wouldn't be surprised to see many other airlines having similar problems.
So, Mark, we're already seeing more delays and cancellations this morning for Southwest. Full disclosure, I've got a few Southwest, excuse me, I'm getting choked up over this. I've got a few Southwest flights coming up, including later this week. What's your advice to passengers who have flights on Southwest today or the rest of the week? How long could it take for the airline to get back to its normal schedule?
It depends. It's the ultimate answer. It depends. They're working very hard. What I always say, there's a great app called Flighty, which is the word flight with a Y. It's essentially the ultimate notifier of problems, and I rely on it. It's much more efficient than the airline's own systems. So it gives you a quicker notification if there's a problem with your flight. It is a paid-for app, but the first flight you take with it, you get all the features for free. So download it for this week. Road test it. And if you get a cancellation, you'll get earlier notification than the masses, which always helps.
Wow, that's some good information. I think I know somebody who might be signing up for that free trial this week. Now, Mark, also, one other piece of news associated with Southwest. We know that the Pilots Association filed a lawsuit last week asking a federal court to block the company's vaccine mandate for its employees. Could this legal battle be playing a role here at all in these mass cancellations we're seeing?
Oh, look, everything is stretched to breaking point. And the staff know that. They've been working very hard. They laid off a lot of people. All the airlines really cut back. If you're seeing staff saying, we don't like this vaccine mandate, they're not going to be predisposed to come into work when they don't have to cover a friend when they don't have to. So all of it taken together puts Southwest under a lot of pressure.
All right. Mark Elwood, quite the mess. Thank you so much for walking us through it this morning. Good to see you.
We have breaking news in the fight against COVID. Merck and Ridgeback have officially submitted an emergency use authorization application for its oral antiviral medicine to treat coronavirus. If approved, it would be the first oral antiviral medicine to treat mild to moderate cases of coronavirus. According to the company's data, the antiviral helped reduce the risk of hospitalization or death by an estimated 50%. While it is not a replacement for the COVID vaccine, the medicine could help significantly slow the spread of COVID. Let's bring in NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel for more. So, Dr. Patel, let's start right there. Can we expect to see the FDA review this application? When do you think that'll happen? How big of a step would this antiviral be in fighting COVID as we go into the winter?
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. It's going to be reviewed. It will also likely require one of those advisory committees. So expect that to happen. As fast as we've seen that happen again is 3 to 5 weeks. But I know the FDA is trying to do this quickly because Merck itself has committed to about 2 million doses to be available in the United States this year alone, and the year is ending soon. So you expect that to happen. And initially, Joe, I expect it to be limited probably to people who have a positive COVID test and have had symptoms for a certain number of days, maybe some high-risk conditions, populations that won't get it likely early on, children, adolescents, and possibly pregnant women might be excluded initially. And then as the drug gets more experience after emergency use, we could see those indications expanded.
That could be some positive news. We're also seeing some new signs of hope this morning with new CDC data showing COVID cases down 12% compared to last week. Dr. Fauci had this to say about the drop in cases.
Over the last few weeks, we've seen a turnaround in the slope in going down in both cases and hospitalizations. Deaths are still up, but it's really flattening, so it's a lagging indicator. I strongly suspect that you're going to start seeing the deaths go down similar to the hospitalizations. How quickly they go down and how thoroughly they go down is going to depend a lot on a number of circumstances, which will be influenced by things like the colder weather, people doing things indoors.
So, Dr. Patel, the big question is why? Why are these cases dropping, and what does it mean for all these COVID precautions we're still taking?
Yeah, Joe, listen, you'd think 20 months into this, we would have this kind of down literally to an exact explanation. We don't, but we do know there are 3 factors driving these decreases. Number one, vaccinations and natural immunity. People getting infected or people who have had vaccines kind of in the previous weeks. We're seeing that effect now. That's a big driver. Second is kind of to Dr. Fauci's point, human behavior. When we tend to see cases increasing, we do tend to change our behavior consciously or unconsciously, restrictions or not. We just change what we do. And then the third, there is some seasonality to this virus. We've seen these surges and they last anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks. The Delta surge is no different. It's about a 2.5 month kind of length. And that's what previous surges has been. Of course, the largest surge we've had to date is winter. So we'll all be looking at this winter. I expect it to be a much better one. But as Dr. Fauci again emphasizes, it'll be up to our behaviors and our vaccination rates, which are getting better, but need to get stronger.
Before we get to winter, we have some hopeful guidance from Dr. Fauci about Halloween. Here's what he had to say about that.
You can get out there. You're outdoors for the most part, at least when my children were out there doing trick-or-treating, and enjoy it. I mean, this is a time that children love. It's a very important part of the year for children. I know my children enjoyed it. So, I mean, again, particularly if you're vaccinated. If you're not vaccinated, again, think about it, that you'll add an extra degree of protection to yourself and your children and your family and your community. So it's a good time to reflect on why it's important to get vaccinated, but go out there and enjoy Halloween as well as the other holidays that will be coming up.
So you touched on this a little already, but could we expect similar guidance for the remaining holidays later this year?
Yeah, I do. I think that we'll have, look, we have to emphasize that vaccines have been working, and they are. And so if you have the majority of your household, and listen, Joe, I hope we'll have children in that included in that population. If the majority of your household is vaccinated, you are incredibly protected. And if you're sticking around, and look, if we're all trying to take Southwest Airlines flights, we're not going anywhere probably anytime soon. So it does seem to reason that we'll need to have at least precautions, whether you're flying, driving, or going to just a friend's house down the street. Asking about vaccines vaccinations, but it is going to be a much better holiday season than last year. I think that fear that overwhelmed us last year before we had a lot of vaccine available, before we even had these treatments and antivirals available, changes the game for this winter.
Now, hopefully, if you have a Southwest Airlines flight, say on Thursday,
you'll be fine. We're all downloading that app, but we're going to be fine.
Sounds good. Dr. Kavita Patel, as always, thanks so much.
Just for example, Thursday. All right, Democrats dodged a boomerang in the battle over raising the debt ceiling, but it's coming right back to haunt them in less than 2 months. Their next steps for avoiding smashing through the debt limit are still unclear. Here's Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen yesterday on the potential economic fallout if that happens.
There's an enormous amount at stake. A failure to raise the debt ceiling would probably cause a recession and could even result in a financial crisis. It would be a catastrophe.
Joining us now, national political reporter Sahil Kapoor and White House correspondent Mike Memoli. Good morning to both of you. Thanks for being here. And Sahil, I will begin with you. So it's a new week, but with those same looming economic crises facing Congress. So how prepared are Democrats to take on raising the debt ceiling and averting another potential government shutdown?
Yeah, Savannah, it looks like they just pushed it a couple of months to December, and we're going to do this all over again pretty soon. Now, the Congress is on a better path on government funding. There's kind of a handshake agreement on, Democrats get their increases in domestic spending and Republicans get their increases in Pentagon and military spending. That's what the two sides want. So they should be able to get that done in time. But the debt limit, that's a whole other issue. This punt that they did to December, the way they did it is going to make it much more difficult to get that done in December. And that's a much more serious issue. The government can shut down. It's happened quite a few times over the last decade or so. But a debt default has never happened in U.S. history. And that would be much more calamitous to the economy. And the simple reason for this complexity is that Republicans had a very hard time finding 11 votes to break a filibuster just on a 2-month extension. And the Senate Republican leader, Mitch McConnell, has gotten a lot of criticism, including from Donald Trump, the leader of the party, which has affected his ability to move Republican senators the next time around. This is going to be a big, big fight.
Yeah, Mike, let's now talk about the White House part of this. I mean, we heard that dire warning from Secretary Yellen. Sahil just echoed that. So what is the White House's strategy? Are they wrangling Democratic leaders to figure out a way to get that done?
Well, it's not clear, actually, Savannah. I mean, when you look at how the White House debt relief strategy has played out over the last few months, it's largely been to defer to the leadership in the Congress in terms of how to proceed moving forward. And there's a lot of criticism, as Sahil mentions, of Mitch McConnell, his fellow Republican colleagues accusing him of really caving here to Democrats. But what he has successfully done for his party is punted this only 2 months, which means there's that much more pressure on the Democrats to figure out what they're going to do. Are they going to try to carve out something in the filibuster to allow a debt ceiling increase with just 50 votes? Are they going to go through that incredibly complicated process of reconciliation? It was clear as Democrats reacted to McConnell's move last week that they really weren't sure that they had found their own answer. They did think they had the upper hand in a political fight. McConnell has now diffused that, and it's not clear, short of President Biden reaching out to his old colleague, Mitch McConnell, and hammering something out, whether there's going to be a deal, especially when McConnell isn't really asking for anything.
Right. And now, Mike, in addition to these crises, I mean, President Biden and the White House are still working to pass his sweeping economic agenda with those 2 massive bills in Congress. How's that going?
Well, it's been an intense few weeks, as you know, with a lot of meetings primarily at the White House, but also that time President Biden did, as you see there, go up to Capitol Hill himself to try to lobby Democrats. The House is coming back into session just for 1 day this week, and otherwise both the House and Senate are out of town. So it's a little bit of a cooling off period in terms of those intense meetings, which means that the president may try to hit the road. We saw that last week when I was traveling with him in Michigan and Illinois. The White House really sensing the need to speak more directly to the public about what exactly is in these proposals, especially as the president's approval rating is taking a hit. And so that really will be the focus in the week ahead. But as we know, once Congress gets back, it's all about Manchin and Sinema. And so some private conversations are likely to be having behind the scenes this week, at least remotely.
Absolutely. And Sal, I want to bring you in on the same topic and first reference one of your latest pieces for NBCnews.com, in which you make the point that the Biden spending agenda isn't really just about the next 10 years, but it's about the 2022 midterms, saying the party's only realistic hope of keeping those payments going is to pass Biden's social spending bill, contributing to the high stakes of inter-party negotiations. So, Tommy Sahil, how worried are Democrats about potentially losing control of Congress?
very worried, and they should be. Just on the basis of history, the party in the White House almost always loses seats in the midterm elections. Lately, President Biden's approval rating has fallen. Democrats' advantage in the so-called generic ballot, which is where you ask voters which party they want to control Congress, has also fallen. And the last Democrat who gained seats in a midterm election was FDR, going all the way back to the 1930s, as Mike Memoli and I have reported in the past. So what I'm talking about here in this piece is those child tax credit payments, which is the centerpiece of President Biden's American Rescue Plan, one of the proudest achievements that Democrats have put on the books so far. But there's a big problem with that. Those payments dry up at the end of this year. So come January, a lot of those parents who have been relying on that $250 to $300 a month per child to help raise them are not going to see them unless this bill passes. So that's an incentive it's a big incentive, kind of a forcing mechanism for Democrats and the White House to get this done, because if they don't, not only will they fail to get that extra advantage, but it will turn into a big liability.
Absolutely. And Sahil, quickly before I let you go, one last piece of business. The January 6th Select Committee investigating the insurrection issued a new round of subpoenas at the end of last week. So now this time they're for 2 people and a company associated with organizing the Stop the Steal rally. So the committee is expected to have another busy week. Give us a little preview of what could come up.
Yes, another busy week. Those third round of subpoenas went out late last week to 2 organizers of the so-called Stop the Steal rally, as well as the group itself called Stop the Steal. But more important than that, Savannah, they've got a number of subpoena deadlines of previously issued ones coming up this week. One of them for 4 individuals who have been in Trump's inner circle. You see them on the screen right there. They were supposed to produce documents by October 13th, last Thursday, and they're supposed to show up for depositions this coming week. It's really unclear the extent to which they're cooperating, but it is quite clear they're not fully cooperating at this moment. So it's a gut check moment. It's a big test for this committee in terms of how effective it's going to be in enforcing these subpoenas. Is it going to put out criminal referrals to the Justice Department as it's threatened? Is the AG, Merrick Garland, and the U.S. attorneys, are they going to move swiftly to do that? Or are these individuals who NBC has confirmed are told by the former president not to comply? Are they just going to get away with it, Savannah?
All right, Sahil Kapoor and Mike Memoli, thank you for that comprehensive roundup as we kick off the week.
Captain Kirk will have to wait one more day for his mission to space. William Shatner, who of course played Kirk on the original Star Trek series, was supposed to fly to space aboard a Blue Origin rocket tomorrow, but the launch was now pushed back to Wednesday because of high winds forecast at the launch site. At 90 years old, Shatner will become the oldest person to ever go to space, surpassing Wally Funk, who at 82 years old rode with Jeff Bezos on Blue Origin's first manned mission back in July.
We still remember you, though, Wally.
Wally. She held that title for 2 months, so yay. All right. Time for a check on your morning news now weather.
Janessa Webb is with us on this Monday. Hi, Janessa. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. You know, I always like to report on pretty calm weather. Last week, great conditions. This morning, man, we've had some real destruction across Oklahoma. For the eastern half of that area. I want to show you some video. We had a tornado outbreak in central and eastern sections of that area. Over 12 report confirmed tornadoes, and they'll be picking up the pieces for the next couple of days as another round of severe weather is going to be happening across that area. Right now on our radar is northern Louisiana to Arkansas, and then the northern half of this squall line that's going to run through Chicago, St. Louis this afternoon. Now, the primary threat for severe weather this afternoon, with temperatures being so high, will be damaging wind gusts across this area and still a few tornadoes possible. Today, it's only a slight risk. Then that same area that we dealt with last night really deals with another round of severe weather by tomorrow. Look at some of these rain totals. We were talking about 1 to 2 inches, torrential rain up to 3 inches, and then another high impact weather day of severe weather for 6 million people as we go into Tuesday. So unfortunate situation as warmer air is currently in place. On the other end, the West Coast, we're talking about 15 inches of fresh new snow. I'll show you exact locations coming up.
All right.
Goodness.
A lot of folks looking forward to that.
No, already. All right. Thanks, Janessa.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.